Well, hello everybody. RV living with the geezer. And gonna head on back to the house now from Bridgeport. I'm pulling away from the taco time. I stopped to get a big glass of tea. They got good tea at taco time, but I'm trying to I want to give this phone holder one more little test here before I quit trying to make it better. I'll keep trying to make it better and I'll make it worse, you know. So I don't know if we're going into the sun here or not. It's sun ought to be up pretty high. It's 11:15 right now. I've been over here at Brookshire shopping, and by the time you see this one, I will have taken you on a little tour of Bridgeport for those of y'all that saw it, and for those that missed it, go back and watch it. We went by my son's high school and I talked a little bit about how they do their playoffs and all that. So you don't want to miss out on all that exciting stuff. I know. Yeah, about 15 miles back to Boyd, and I think this holder is this phone mount's gonna be okay. Hope so. But yeah, I just want to talk a little bit, maybe start talking a little bit about some of the guys I work with in the fire department. Maybe, you know, I won't make this too long. There was, it was a small, my main fire department where I worked was the city of Castle Hills, which is a suburb of San Antonio, and it was totally, and still is, surrounded by incorporated San Antonio, so it had no room to grow. So, you know, the city was as big as it was going to get. Had about 6,000 people, and you know, quite a few businesses. We were right there on Loop 410, which is a major artery around San Antonio. So, in fact, Castle Hills was on both sides of it. And I say was, it still is. I've been retired for 20 years, so I sort of talk in the past tense. But we had 20-person department, 6 per shift, and we had a chief and an assistant chief who worked 8 to 5 during the weekdays. They worked 40-hour weeks, and the rest of us worked 24 hours on and 48 hours off, which I absolutely loved. I wouldn't trade that work schedule for anything, any other type of working schedule. It was perfect. Everybody had a part-time job. But, I say most everybody had a part-time job. There was one or two that didn't. One guy, George, was a bachelor, and he's passed away now. But several of these guys have passed away. You know, makes me feel fortunate. I'm still kicking. But yeah, I started there in 1980, and I'd been at another city before that. I've talked about this before, but let's see. When I started on my shift, because we changed personnel. You know, people would retire or leave. It was a pretty popular place. People, for a small department, they didn't have much turnover there at all. We went, which was almost unheard of back in those days, we went 10 years straight without hiring anybody at one period there. That's how, and there was a whole list of people that that were certified. In Texas, you have to be certified by the fire commission. You go through a fire academy, and there was a whole list of guys that wanted jobs. Went there and went 10 years without hiring anybody. That speaks well for the department, speaks well for the fire chief. I'll talk about him today. That's what I'll start with. Might as well start with the top dog, huh? Chief Duggins, Bill Duggins. He was a retired Air Force. He was retired out of the Air Force about 22 years or whatever. He was a sergeant in the Air Force. And he hired me over at Almas Park Fire Department when he was there. Gave me my start as a paid firefighter. You got to watch these gravel trucks. They just sort of have the right of way. But then it was a step up to go to Castle Hills. It was a bigger city, more pay. So he moved over there, and he told me that when there was an opening, that if I wanted it, he'd hire me. And he did. So I went over there in 1980, and Chief Duggins was just a good guy to work for. He treated everybody right, real friendly. Had a lot of patience. Put up with a lot of pranks and stuff. And he had been a fireman in the Air Force, so I mean, he started from the ground up. He knew the game, you know. And let's see, he was there for I guess about 15 years that I was from. He retired in I don't know when it was, in the 90s sometime, and moved to Florida. He had a granddaughter that him and his wife raised, and or really helped raise, and she had moved to Florida, and that girl was his pride and joy. So when he got enough years in for his second retirement, and his wife she was ready to retire from her job, and he moved on and went to Florida. But he was really a great guy to work for. You couldn't pull much over on him, that's for sure. We used to had a thermostat on the wall, and we kept that place like a meat market, frozen meat market in the summertime. And he would come in there in the mornings, and the guy who got up first in the mornings, his job was to, Chief Duggins would tell us to leave the thermostat on 72, because he would get his rear end chewed out by the city manager when the bill at the fire station came in each month, and was like a lot, because we kept it so cold. So the guy who got up first in the morning, his job was to make the coffee, go out and get the paper, bring it in. That's back when they threw newspapers, believe it or not. That's how long it was that I was a fireman. And make the coffee and turn the thermostat back up to 72 from 52 or whatever we had it set on. We were sleeping in the dorm back there. We had a little bitty old dorm. Everybody's beds about 2 feet apart, snoring, and the after effects of eating beans. And I mean, it was a man camp back there. But he came in one morning, and he would have these meetings where he'd say, we're going to have a come to Jesus meeting. And And when he would get really mad, his jugular veins on both sides of his neck would pop out about 2 inches. So you could tell when I saw him mad, really mad once, and it wasn't a pretty sight. He was a TI in the Army, which is in the Air Force, which is a drill instructor. So he could get mad and holler, and he'd have these come to Jesus meetings. Gentlemen, he'd always start off with, gentlemen, we're gonna have to straighten up here. And these meetings would only be about once a year. Each shift would have one, and he'd go through all the stuff that we were supposed to do, not watch TV during the day. You know, once you got your chores over, you're supposed to look like you're still busy, and none of it lasted any amount of time at all. But he would come in and he'd say, on that thermostat, he'd say, I know y'all are putting this thing down low, you know. I know you're putting it down low. Way lower than what it needs to be. This video's dragging on here. I'm gotta finish it up. Don't want to bore you all to death. But I'm gonna fix y'all. So he put one of those covers on it with a little lock, that little turn, like flimsy little thing. A paper clip unlocks that, you know. So he said, I'll lock it each day when I leave. Set it on 72. So that was no big deal. And the other thing that I'll mention here that was funny, and then I'll the next time I talk about the fire department, I'll talk about somebody else. But each day we had certain things we had to do at the station to keep it immaculate. You know, you could eat off the floors in there and tile floors. But on Tuesdays, the one little funny thing I can remember is we had to dust, and there would be somebody assigned to dust the station. You know, walk around with a can of Pledge or whatever and a rag and dust the dorm, dust everything. I mean, you can only dust so much, you know, and every Tuesday it got completely dusted. Well, somebody had the idea, Chief would always go over and talk to the city manager after lunch in the afternoons. They'd have a little meeting. So it didn't matter what time you dusted, just as long as you did it, whoever was supposed to do it. So I forget who it was, had this brilliant light bulb idea popped on in their head. They just walked around the station and shot the Pledge up in the air. Just sprayed the can in the air. Took them about 30 seconds. Just sprayed it all over the station. And he walked in, looked around, walked up, took his finger and ran it across a windowsill or something, and said, good job dusting, man. So from then on, about every other time it needed to be dusted, he got the old spray treatment. So, all right, guys, I've talked too long already. But that was Chief Duggins, and I don't know if he's still kicking. He would be he would be in his 90s by now if he is. And Chief, I just want to thank you for being the man that you were. You were really a good person to work for, man. Couldn't ask for anything better. And when I tell my story about Big D, I'll tell them about the time you were screaming at us at that fire, me and Big D up on that roof, calling us hard-headed Germans. So anyway, peace out, guys. Stay blessed, stay positive. I don't know how long I talked. I drove all the way back from Bridgeport, so this one's probably too long. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.